the new god of gems, the new gods of gems, the new god of gems, the new goddess of gems, the new goddesses of gems, the new goddess of gems, the old god of gems, the old gods of gems, the old god of gems, the old goddess of gems, the old goddesses of gems, the old goddess of gems, the greater god of gems, the greater gods of gems, the greater god of gems, the greater goddess of gems, the greater goddesses of gems, the greater goddess of gems, the lesser god of gems, the lesser gods of gems, the lesser god of gems, the lesser goddess of gems, the lesser goddesses of gems, the lesser goddess of gems, the higher god of gems, the higher gods of gems, the higher god of gems, the higher goddess of gems, the higher goddesses of gems, the higher goddess of gems, the lower god of gems, the lower gods of gems, the lower god of gems, the lower goddess of gems, the lower goddesses of gems, the lower goddess of gems, the greater spirit of gems, the greater spirits of gems, the greater spirit of gems, the lesser spirit of gems, the lesser spirits of gems, the lesser spirit of gems, the higher spirit of gems, the higher spirits of gems, the higher spirit of gems, the lower spirit of gems, the lower spirits of gems, the lower spirit of gems, the major god of gems, the major gods of gems, the major god of gems, the major goddess of gems, the major goddesses of gems, the major goddess of gems, the minor god of gems, the minor gods of gems, the minor god of gems, the minor goddess of gems, the minor goddesses of gems, the minor goddess of gems, the superior god of gems, the superior gods of gems, the superior god of gems, the superior goddess of gems, the superior goddesses of gems, the superior goddess of gems, the inferior god of gems, the inferior gods of gems, the inferior god of gems, the inferior goddess of gems, the inferior goddesses of gems, the inferior goddess of gems, the ancestor god of gems, the ancestor gods of gems, the ancestor god of gems, the ancestor goddess of gems, the ancestor goddesses of gems, the ancestor goddess of gems, the ascendant god of gems, the ascendant gods of gems, the ascendant god of gems, the ascendant goddess of gems, the ascendant goddesses of gems, the ascendant goddess of gems, the descendant god of gems, the descendant gods of gems, the descendant god of gems, the descendant goddess of gems, the descendant goddesses of gems, the descendant goddess of gems, the transcendent god of gems, the transcendent gods of gems, the transcendent god of gems, the transcendent goddess of gems, the transcendent goddesses of gems, the transcendent goddess of gems, the past god of gems, the past gods of gems, the past god of gems, the past goddess of gems, the past goddesses of gems, the past goddess of gems, the present god of gems, the present gods of gems, the present god of gems, the present goddess of gems, the present goddesses of gems, the present goddess of gems, the future god of gems, the future gods of gems, the future god of gems, the future goddess of gems, the future goddesses of gems, the future goddess of gems, the authentic god of gems, the authentic gods of gems, the authentic god of gems, the authentic goddess of gems, the authentic goddesses of gems, the authentic goddess of gems, the synthetic god of gems, the synthetic gods of gems, the synthetic god of gems, the synthetic goddess of gems, the synthetic goddesses of gems, the synthetic goddess of gems, the progressive god of gems, the progressive gods of gems, the progressive god of gems, the progressive goddess of gems, the progressive goddesses of gems, the progressive goddess of gems, the regressive god of gems, the regressive gods of gems, the regressive god of gems, the regressive goddess of gems, the regressive goddesses of gems, the regressive goddess of gems, the ordinary god of gems, the ordinary gods of gems, the ordinary god of gems, the ordinary goddess of gems, the ordinary goddesses of gems, the ordinary goddess of gems, the extraordinary god of gems, the extraordinary gods of gems, the extraordinary god of gems, the extraordinary goddess of gems, the extraordinary goddesses of gems, the extraordinary goddess of gems, the static god of gems, the static gods of gems, the static god of gems, the static goddess of gems, the static goddesses of gems, the static goddess of gems, the dynamic god of gems, the dynamic gods of gems, the dynamic god of gems, the dynamic goddess of gems, the dynamic goddesses of gems, the dynamic goddess of gems, the land god of gems, the land gods of gems, the land god of gems, the land goddess of gems, the land goddesses of gems, the land goddess of gems, the sea god of gems, the sea gods of gems, the sea god of gems, the sea goddess of gems, the sea goddesses of gems, the sea goddess of gems, the sky god of gems, the sky gods of gems, the sky god of gems, the sky goddess of gems, the sky goddesses of gems, the sky goddess of gems, the god of gems, the gods of gems, the god of gems, the goddess of gems, the goddesses of gems, the goddess of gems, the half god of gems, the half gods of gems, the half god of gems, the half goddess of gems, the half goddesses of gems, the half goddess of gems, the vessel of gems, the vessels of gems, the vessel of gems, the name of gems, the names of gems, the name of gems, the person of gems, the persons of gems, the person of gems, the persona of gems, the personas of gems, the persona of gems, the personage of gems, the personages of gems, the personage of gems, the personality of gems, the personalities of gems, the personality of gems, the personification of gems, the personifications of gems, the personification of gems, the image of gems, the images of gems, the image of gems, the imagination of gems, the imaginations of gems, the imagination of gems, the belief of gems, the beliefs of gems, the belief of gems, the thought of gems, the thoughts of gems, the thought of gems, the word of gems, the words of gems, the word of gems, the action of gems, the actions of gems, the action of gems, the reaction of gems, the reactions of gems, the reaction of gems, the feeling of gems, the feelings of gems, the feeling of gems, the situation of gems, the situations of gems, the situation of gems, the circumstance of gems, the circumstances of gems, the circumstance of gems, the environment of gems, the environments of gems, the environment of gems, the relationship of gems, the relationships of gems, the relationship of gems, the number of gems, the numbers of gems, the number of gems, the formula of gems, the formulas of gems, the formula of gems, the equation of gems, the equations of gems, the equation of gems, the theory of gems, the theories of gems, the theory of gems, the symbol of gems, the symbols of gems, the symbol of gems, the color of gems, the colors of gems, the color of gems, the thing of gems, the things of gems, the thing of gems, the way of gems, the ways of gems, the way of gems, the place of gems, the places of gems, the place of gems, the time of gems, the times of gems, the time of gems, the event of gems, the events of gems, the event of gems, the result of gems, the results of gems, the result of gems, the crown of gems, the crowns of gems, the crown of gems, the throne of gems, the thrones of gems, the throne of gems, the gems king, the gems kings, the gems kingdom, the gems kingdoms, the gems king subject, the gems king subjects, the gems king's dominion, the gems king's dominions, the kingdom of gems, the kingdoms of gems, the kingdom of gems, the gems queen, the gems queens, the gems queendom, the gems queendoms, the gems queen subject, the gems queen subjects, the gems queen's dominion, the gems queen's dominions, the queendom of gems, the queendoms of gems, the queendom of gems, the gems prince, the gems princes, the gems prince dom, the gems prince doms, the gems prince's subject, the gems prince's subjects, the gems prince's dominion, the gems prince's dominions, the prince dom of gems, the prince doms of gems, the prince dom of gems, the gems princess, The gems princesses. The gems princess dom. The gems princess doms. The gems princesses subject. The gems princesses subjects. The gems princesses dominion. The gems princesses dominions. The princess dom of gems. The princess doms of gems. The princess dom of gems. The lord of gems. The lords of gems. The lord of gems. The lordess of gems. The lordesses of gems. The lordess of gems. The priest of gems. The priests of gems. The priest of gems. The priestess of gems. The priestesses of gems. The priestess of gems. The ritual of gems. The rituals of gems. The ritual of gems. The shrine of gems. The shrines of gems. The shrine of gems. The temple of gems. The temples of gems. The temple of gems. The leader of gems. The leaders of gems. The leader of gems. The follower of gems. The followers of gems. The follower of gems. The natural substance of gems. The natural substances of gems. The natural substance of gems. The supernatural substance of gems. The supernatural substances of gems. The supernatural substance of gems. The temporal substance of gems. The temporal substances of gems. The temporal substance of gems. The spiritual substance of gems. The spiritual substances of gems. The spiritual substance of gems. The natural form of gems. The natural forms of gems. The natural form of gems. The supernatural form of gems. The supernatural forms of gems. The supernatural form of gems. The temporal form of gems. The temporal forms of gems. The temporal form of gems. The spiritual form of gems. The spiritual forms of gems. The spiritual form of gems. The age of gems. The ages of gems. The age of gems. The era of gems. The eras of gems. The era of gems. The awakener of gems. The awakeners of gems. The awakener of gems. The awakening of gems. The awakenings of gems. The awakening of gems. The realm of gems. The realms of gems. The realm of gems. The dimension of gems. The dimensions of gems. The dimension of gems. The zone of gems. The zones of gems. The zone of gems. The frequency of gems. The frequencies of gems. The frequency of gems. The century of gems. The centuries of gems. The century of gems. The millennium of gems. The millenniums of gems. The millennium of gems. The purpose of gems. The purposes of gems. The purpose of gems. The meaning of gems. The meanings of gems. The meaning of gems. The culture of gems. The cultures of gems. The culture of gems. The demonstrator of gems. The demonstrators of gems. The demonstrator of gems. The demonstration of gems. The demonstrations of gems. The demonstration of gems. The manifester of gems. The manifestors of gems. The manifester of gems. The manifestation of gems. The manifestations of gems. The manifestation of gems. The presence of gems. The presences of gems. The presence of gems. The glow of gems. The glows of gems. The glow of gems. The goal of gems. The goals of gems. The goal of gems. The plan of gems. The plans of gems. The plan of gems. The book of gems. The books of gems. The book of gems. The philosopher of gems. The philosophers of gems. The philosopher of gems. The philosophy of gems. The philosophies of gems. The philosophy of gems. The releaser of gems. The releasers of gems. The releaser of gems. The release of gems. The releases of gems. The release of gems. The variable of gems. The variables of gems. The variable of gems. The cause of gems. The causes of gems. The cause of gems. The effect of gems. The effects of gems. The effect of gems. The journey of gems. The journeys of gems. The journey of gems. The emergence of gems. The emergences of gems. The emergence of gems. The source of gems. The sources of gems. The source of gems. The originator of gems. The originators of gems. The originator of gems. The origin of gems. The origins of gems. The origin of gems. The forefather of gems. The forefathers of gems. The forefather of gems. The foremother of gems. The foremothers of gems. The foremother of gems. The ancestor of gems. The ancestors of gems. The ancestor of gems. the descendant of gems, the descendants of gems, the descendant of gems, the lineage of gems, the lineages of gems, the lineage of gems, the heritage of gems, the heritages of gems, the heritage of gems, the heir of gems, the heirs of gems, the heir of gems, the co-heir of gems, the co-heirs of gems, the co-heir of gems, the joint heir of gems, the joint heirs of gems, the joint heir of gems, the dynasty of gems, the dynasties of gems, the dynasty of gems, the force of gems, the forces of gems, the force of gems, the law of gems, the laws of gems, the law of gems, the pact of gems, the pacts of gems, the pact of gems, the game of gems, the games of gems, the game of gems, the mask of gems, the masks of gems, the mask of gems, the armor of gems, the armors of gems, the armor of gems, the sword of gems, the swords of gems, the sword of gems, the shield of gems, the shields of gems, the shield of gems, the force shield of gems, the force shields of gems, the force shield of gems, the armored force shield of gems, the armored force shields of gems, the armored force shield of gems, the champion of gems, the champions of gems, the champion of gems, the guardian of gems, the guardians of gems, the guardian of gems, the defender of gems, the defenders of gems, the defender of gems, the protector of gems, the protectors of gems, the protector of gems, the chant of gems, the chants of gems, the chant of gems, the shape of gems, the shapes of gems, the shape of gems, the cube of gems, the cubes of gems, the cube of gems, the cuboid of gems, the cuboids of gems, the cuboid of gems, the sphere of gems, the spheres of gems, the sphere of gems, the spheroid of gems, the spheroids of gems, the spheroid of gems, the prism of gems, the prisms of gems, the prism of gems, the pyramid of gems, the pyramids of gems, the pyramid of gems, the cylinder of gems, the cylinders of gems, the cylinder of gems, the cone of gems, the cones of gems, the cone of gems, the triangle of gems, the triangles of gems, the triangle of gems, the circle of gems, the circles of gems, the circle of gems, the semicircle of gems, the semicircles of gems, the semicircle of gems, the square of gems, the squares of gems, the square of gems, the rectangle of gems, the rectangles of gems, the rectangle of gems, the parallelogram of gems, the parallelograms of gems, the parallelogram of gems, the rhombus of gems, the rhombuses of gems, the rhombus of gems, the trapezoid of gems, the trapezoids of gems, the trapezoid of gems, the polygon of gems, the polygons of gems, the polygon of gems, the pentagon of gems, the pentagons of gems, the pentagon of gems, the hexagon of gems, the hexagons of gems, the hexagon of gems, the septagon of gems, the septagons of gems, the septagon of gems, the octagon of gems, the octagons of gems, the octagon of gems, the nonagon of gems, the nonagons of gems, the nonagon of gems, the decagon of gems, the decagons of gems, the decagon of gems, the evolution of gems, the evolutions of gems, the evolution of gems, the revolution of gems, the revolutions of gems, the revolution of gems, the elemental art of gems, the elemental arts of gems, the elemental art of gems, the elemental science of gems, the elemental sciences of gems, the elemental science of gems, the elemental principle of gems, the elemental principles of gems, the elemental principle of gems, the elemental technology of gems, the elemental technologies of gems, the elemental technology of gems, the low elemental art of gems, the low elemental arts of gems, the low elemental art of gems, the low elemental science of gems, the low elemental sciences of gems, the low elemental science of gems, the low elemental principle of gems, the low elemental principles of gems, the low elemental principle of gems, the low elemental technology of gems, the low elemental technologies of gems, the low elemental technology of gems, the high elemental art of gems, the high elemental arts of gems, the high elemental art of gems, the high elemental science of gems, the high elemental sciences of gems, the high elemental science of gems, the high elemental principle of gems, the high elemental principles of gems, the high elemental principle of gems, the high elemental technology of gems, the high elemental technologies of gems, the high elemental technology of gems, the agent of gems, the agents of gems, the agent of gems, the agency of gems, the agencies of gems, the agency of gems, the amplifier of gems, the amplifiers of gems, the amplifier of gems, the amplification of gems, the amplifications of gems, the amplification of gems, the enhancer of gems, the enhancers of gems, the enhancer of gems, the enhancement of gems, the enhancements of gems, the enhancement of gems, the magnifier of gems, the magnifiers of gems, the magnifier of gems, the magnification of gems, the magnifications of gems, the magnification of gems, the influencer of gems, the influencers of gems, the influencer of gems, the influence of gems, the influences of gems, the influence of gems, the emanator of gems, the emanators of gems, the emanator of gems, the emanation of gems, the emanations of gems, the emanation of gems, the converger of gems, the convergers of gems, the converger of gems, the convergence of gems, the convergences of gems, the convergence of gems, the aura of gems, the auras of gems, the aura of gems, the impression of gems, the impressions of gems, the impression of gems, the intelligence of gems, the intelligences of gems, the intelligence of gems, the sophistication of gems, the sophistications of gems, the sophistication of gems, the genius of gems, the geniuses of gems, the genius of gems, the polymath of gems, the polymaths of gems, the polymath of gems, the psychic of gems, the psychics of gems, the psychic of gems, the knowledge of gems, the knowledges of gems, the knowledge of gems, the understanding of gems, the understandings of gems, the understanding of gems, the wisdom of gems, the wisdoms of gems, the wisdom of gems, the secret of gems, the secrets of gems, the secret of gems, the mystery of gems, the mysteries of gems, the mystery of gems, the revelation of gems, the revelations of gems, the revelation of gems, the tactic of gems, the tactics of gems, the tactic of gems, the strategy of gems, the strategies of gems, the strategy of gems, the strength of gems, the strengths of gems, the strength of gems, the might of gems, the mights of gems, the might of gems, the power of gems, the powers of gems, the power of gems, the authority of gems, the authorities of gems, the authority of gems, the dominion of gems, the dominions of gems, the dominion of gems, the rhythm of gems, the rhythms of gems, the rhythm of gems, the melody of gems, the melodies of gems, the melody of gems, the music of gems, the musics of gems, the music of gems, the lyric of gems, the lyrics of gems, the lyric of gems, the song of gems, the songs of gems, the song of gems, the dance of gems, the dances of gems, the dance of gems, the spirit of gems, the spirits of gems, the spirit of gems, the soul of gems, the souls of gems, the soul of gems, the body of gems, the bodies of gems, the body of gems, the mark of gems, the marks of gems, the mark of gems, the promise of gems, the promises of gems, the promise of gems, the visionary of gems, the visionaries of gems, the visionary of gems, the vision of gems, the visions of gems, the vision of gems, the picture of gems, the pictures of gems, the picture of gems, the sound of gems, the sounds of gems, the sound of gems, the tongue of gems, the tongues of gems, the tongue of gems, the language of gems, the languages of gems, the language of gems, the communication of gems, the communications of gems, the communication of gems, the people of gems, the peoples of gems, the people of gems, the society of gems, the societies of gems, the society of gems, the fortress of gems, the fortresses of gems, the fortress of gems, The government of gems. The governments of gems. The government of gems. The city of gems. The cities of gems. The city of gems. The nation of gems. The nations of gems. The nation of gems. The civilization of gems. The civilizations of gems. The civilization of gems. The world of gems. The worlds of gems. The world of gems.